Moffie, a movie that came out quite a while ago, 2019, and we're just seeing it now. Why is that, Dave?
Well, it did some festivals in 2019, but aired in or premiered in South Africa in March 2020, right before the pandemic started, and then hit VOD in Europe last summer 2020. So US and Canada are actually the last people to get this movie in terms of distribution, which is pretty uncommon, honestly. Um, and this might just be. I'm not actually sure why this is, but it might just be because it's South African film, I guess, and just the way it moved around and with COVID. I'm not really sure, but either way, we finally got it here as well. And as far as South African filmmakers go, like I really didn't have a whole lot touchstones apart from Neil Blomkamp, who's moved in Hollywood, of course, with after District 9. But this is directed by, was it Oliver Hermanus?
Hermanus, yep.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here because he's a South African man. He is notably mixed race, but this is a white point of view in apartheid South Africa. Not the most common narrative to spin, right?
Mhm.
Challenging. But yeah, I just had heard this movie was supposed to be pretty good. We finally got a chance to see it, and here we are, normal VOD at that, normal rental price. And I think it's a lot. It's definitely gloomy at times, not the funnest hang, but a lot of commendable things about it, I have to say.
Yeah, I think it's well acted, which especially for not really having any well-known actors in this
Yeah.
is really impressive.
Debut for
Um,
Kai Luke Bummer.
and I also think it's at times it's easy to probably make these comparisons, but I think there's moments where you get some of the tension that you get in things like Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
Hmm.
um, or even some of the like moments in Call Me by Your Name. Yeah, Call Me by Your Name, even though I think has some emotional moments, it feels a lot lighter than this movie, which is obviously um, looking at a gay man and that experience through a very uh, difficult lens and
Hmm.
challenging lens because it's constant abuse, constantly being told that you are, wrong, you're a criminal, you're not supposed to be that way. But I think there's also some really nice moments. Ends on a really devastating note, I'd say. A lot of pain in this movie, and like you said, putting this during apartheid, and I feel like seeing some of it, but not really getting up fully into it is kind of like feeling a bit used. But apparently, it is also based off of the writer's experience. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah, what's adapted
tough,
from, right?
right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's really, I think, the crux of what each audience member has to uh, reckon with, I guess, when watching Mofi, is that you're set in, early 1980s South Africa. Apartheid's alive and well, and the whole prospect of the plot is that all, able-bodied, I think 16-year-olds and up, whatever it was, in South Africa, white ones, are conscripted into the army for the ongoing Angola border war between Angola and South Africa.
Two
And
years of
right,
service.
and actually, Kai Luke Brummer, our lead actor, his dad actually was conscripted in
Hmm.
this during this very event. And at this time, homosexuality is not only mocked and derided and hated by society, it's also criminal. And that's kind of our focus, right? But the movie, I think, smartly, even if it's absolutely gutting to see, smartly reminds you of exactly where we are, because when we get that train scene, probably like the second scene in the movie, is you remember how just about everyone we're about to see are just virulent, deeply racist people. And I thought that scene at that train station was absolutely horrific, really.
Hmm.
And then you kind of leave that alone, right?
Hmm.
And it doesn't really come up again. And you hear like the nationalism and the machismo and the toxic masculinity of their training, and how they're being hyped up for this conflict. But for the most part, I think the race angle isn't is again we're sticking to the white POV, and again we're focusing on now a guy who's trying to repress his homosexuality because it's really for his own safety.
Mhm.
And there's a lot to reckon with that, right? But it's kind of, I guess it was kind of strange to see how race came and went, because it's a gay story. It's not a race story, but race
Right.
is part of every story in the 1980s in South Africa.
Yep.
So it's a lot going on.
Yeah, I think after that train scene, I think the next time you see a black person is when he's on the front lines, and they're just greeting everybody, and they're like, "Yeah, look at the neighbors over here. We're gonna have some fun with them later." And it's just like a group of black people who are being held prisoner.
Right.
And it definitely feels like I don't know, something about it just felt a little bit off. Not touching more on it, but I think there's also obviously parallels to draw about the idea of like just a different identity during that time, not really being accepted. I think the brutalness of it all, like I really felt like those training scenes and
Yeah.
the drill sergeant was just so hard to watch and just so like overly brutal for no reason. And then you also get some of the quieter moments that are really brutal, like when he goes looking for what's his name, Masson,
Mhm.
or the
Stassen, or whatever it was. Yeah.
assassin, and he finds the other soldier who is gay, and he has like the scar on his head, and
Right.
talks about how he had been treated based on his suspected identity as a gay man, and just really like brutal stuff to hear and listen to, and
Right.
it's hard.
Yeah, totally. The drill sergeant's played by Hilton Pelzer. I gotta say, you get some real shades of Full Metal Jacket,
Yeah.
obviously, in terms of brutal drill sergeants go in film. Um, yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, as you're getting more of those scenes, you learn what the title of the movie means, right? It's a
Hmm.
slur for gay people in Afrikaans. It's like, fuck. It's like the movie does not run away from any of that stuff, really. But as you said, story of our lead is much more subtle and understated. Again, kind of like, I guess, how Portugal on Fire did a lot of its
Hmm.
a lot of its weaving of a relationship. And I guess it kind of makes sense, right? It's like, for the sake of these two men, there's no consummation. There's no just being ourselves and being that together. It's like, no, they've long accepted they can't do that. And it's like, this is brutal, it does not leave you in the best place, I guess.
Yeah. No, it absolutely. And that ending scene where they um Nicholas, the main character, and Stassen go to the beach and feels like they might finally get to like consummate this unrequited love. And you see him like reach for Stassen in the water, and he just like misses his hand. Stassen's like, oh, I'm cold, and gets out, and then they're sitting together, and then he just leaves him there. And it's just like
Yeah.
the loneliness of being a gay man at this time. But again, it feels very strange to talk about that with apartheid in the background, because I'm like, yeah, I can't imagine being a black person in South Africa at this time, and the
Right.
fear and anxiety of that. It's not to say one undermines the other in any way. It's just a overarching aspect of the story that
Right.
does feel like it's not necessarily brought about enough.
Right, right. And listening to Oliver Hermanis talk about the movie, from what I've gathered, it has been well received in South Africa. Notably, South Africa is a majority black place. Apartheid was minority rule, lest we forget. So it seems like it has been well regarded over there. And I think that's probably the most important audience for this film, to be honest. I think Kai Luke Bremer, for being his first film role, I think he had just a little bit of stage experience, but for his first film role, to effectively have performance like this, where it's a lot of subtlety and not a lot of lines,
Hmm.
definitely leads you to invest in his future career. I
For
think
sure.
definitely talented. So, and Oliver Hermana's funny enough because this movie has come out, it was finished, as far as he's concerned, so long ago. He's had time to pick new roles. He's apparently adapting a Kira Kurosawa movie,
Hmm.
Kiru. So it's like, huh? Well, that's ambitious to adapt a Kurosawa movie. Best of luck
Yeah.
to you.
Well, interesting. Definitely. I think it's definitely a movie worth watching. It'll make you think.
Yeah.
And for as much as we might have identified some detractors, I thought this was really well done. So definitely check that out.